Chapter 15, DLC Loading Dock. The gravy train was rolling along nicely. I did 2 paintings last week that Linda and I delivered to the DLC headquarters. Each time I invoiced Veronica, 1 week later, I'd get a check for my work. I figured that in about a month, I'd be able to put down a huge deposit on a new car. Struggling artists and shitbox cars just seem to naturally go together. The concept of buying an actual new car versus something that's at the end of its life was just weird to me. I parked near the loading dock because there was a truck in each bay when I pulled in. I grabbed my 2 paintings and scaled the concrete steps. A couple of guys were unloading pallets and boxes from each of the trucks. Mookie was standing in the middle of all this with a clipboard in his hand, talking to one of the drivers. He noticed me enter the loading area with my paintings and gave me a nod. I thought, beautiful, I won't have to make small talk with him. I could just make my own delivery and get the hell out of there. I avoided a guy pushing a hand truck and ran over to my spot next to the flappy doors. A painting was already there, leaning against the wall. My brain locked up for a second, trying to comprehend this inanimate object. It wasn't one of my paintings. It was just a random bunch of colors and shapes, someone's bad attempt at surrealism. I stood there staring at it, as if I had found a set of Bigfoot tracks out in the woods. What the hell was it doing there? Did one of those guys just take it off one of the trucks? Like mine, there wasn't a frame on it, so it wasn't ready to go upstairs and get stuck on a wall someplace. I leaned my 2 paintings in front of it. I looked towards Mookie for answers, but he was still outside with his clipboard, approaching a 3rd truck that had just pulled in. I returned to my car and started the engine. I remember Gary saying something about hedging his bets. Was there another artist who had the same deal as mine? I was supposed to have been at the gallery 20 minutes ago, so I drove straight there. I found Jerry in the back, finishing up the last cuts of some wood moldings at our table saw.
We've got an order for 3 more 10x14 prints.
Where's the artwork? I asked him. He pointed to the unmounted prints on the assembly table. That meant he needed 3 more mats cut. Do you want museum-grade mats or just the regular stuff?
The regular shit. Ivory white.
I pulled out 2 large sheets of ivory white mat board from the box and placed the first one into the mat cutter.
So
what? I said as I set the stops on the mat cutter.
Did you...
I stopped and looked at Jerry. Did I what?
Did you guys...
Jerry made a circle with his finger and thumb on one hand and thrusted his other index finger a couple of times through. The universal hand signal for humping. I exhaled slowly and thought for a second. Did I really have to tell him? If I didn't, he would just keep asking. Yes, I replied in a condescending tone. Jerry's eyes widened.
Awesome!
Wonderful, I thought. I'd been transported back to my middle school lunchroom. If I was lucky, maybe Jerry would try to blow some milk through his nose.
You guys look like a great couple.
Yeah, I adjusted the blade on the machine. She's really great. Jerry seemed satisfied with my response. He scooped up all his moldings and walked over to the alignment machine, a device that held the cut pieces in place so they could be joined together.
How's the DLC contract holding up?
They keep sending the checks. It's great. I ran the first cut on the mat board. I just delivered 2 paintings today.
How many paintings have you done for those guys?
I'm trying to do 2 a week. That's 8 so far. Jerry drove a staple into each corner of the wooden frame he was working on. He took it out of the machine and held it up. With one eye closed, he checked the alignment and said,
Where are those paintings going?
I had to think for a moment. Where are they going? I put down the second piece of mat board on the floor. I'm not sure. Gary never told me where they would end up.
Well, what happens when you make a delivery?
His assistant Veronica comes down and gets them. I thought for a moment. At least she did on the first day.
What do you mean, on the first day?
I don't know. I lean the paintings against the wall and get the hell out of there. I'm afraid of being tormented by Mookie.
What's a Mookie?
It's a long story. I began to set the stops on the cutting machine, but I had already forgotten the dimensions. I was completely distracted by Jerry's questions.
Is he going to have a showing of your work?
That never came up. Maybe it's in the contract. I absentmindedly started turning the stop screw on the machine. I'm guessing he's putting them up in the hallways of all the buildings they own.
They do own a crazy amount of real estate.
Think about it. If you hung artwork in every room of the DLC Corporation, including all the hallways, that would be what? Hundreds of paintings.
That's a crap load of artwork.
Makes sense, right? He nodded as he squared up the edges of the next frame.
Will they allow you to see where your stuff is hanging?
They should at least tell me that, right? Jerry broke out in a big grin.
You could have your own gallery showing down there.
He pointed to the blank wall and pretended to be a museum tour director.
And this one by the water cooler was painted by Gavin in 2016. It's called The Sunset at Poland Springs.
He crossed his arms and pretended to be a snooty patron.
Yes, I like how he mixed the subtle hues of blue to create the sheen on that plastic jug.
He darted over to the stack of boxes.
Hey, what's this one called? Paul Gauguin's Copy Machine at Dusk. Note how it doesn't have the stylistic flair of some of his later work, like Monet's Coke Machine under fluorescent lights.
I gave Jerry a sarcastic smile for his performance.